Right. To those of you who are new to the group, these recordings all end up on YouTube sometime after the meeting, magically. So they're up in the cloud for anybody who's missed it or wants to go back over anything or probably remember what was covered. Say good afternoon. Good to see everyone. Good to see we've had a few new people join us in the last couple of months, which is always a good thing. In fact, Dave Spoke was testing out his microphone earlier. Dave, if you wouldn't mind, if you could give us a quick introduction, perhaps, it'd be.
Sure, yeah, happy to. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Dave Burnett. I'm located in Tucson, Arizona. I have a bachelor's degree in physics from the U of A. I spent a couple of years at the U of A doing experimental physics in condensed matter and nonlinear and dynamical systems. Prior to that, I did some astronomy and astrophysics work at Ohio State. And then for the last 25 years, I was a software and systems engineer at Raytheon here in Tucson. And I just retired last November as a portfolio chief engineer. So I'm trying to find things to do to keep myself busy. And I've been lurking in the background with everything that's going on here. Very excited about it. Gary, you and I exchanged emails a couple of weeks ago. So fortunate, turn the radio down. Fortunate that I have an opportunity to be here today and looking forward to see what I can learn.
Good. Well, welcome. I mean, your background fits in pretty well. No question about that. And I'm sure there's a lot of good things you can contribute going forward. Wonderful. Okay. Let me flip over to the agenda real quickly, see if anybody wants to add anything to it. There we go. I moved it. So as usual, we'll start with some comments from our publicity team, because that's really important to keep getting the word out for the Solar Eclipse QSO party and other events between now and October and next April. Specifically, we've got a few comments from Nick today about the AM and the SWL outreach for the medium wave listening event. We've got some good news about our scoring committee, and actually maybe we'll look a little bit of some preliminary results. I know Darsh has been working to see what we can achieve, and then we'll have some time set aside for the science topics too, as we always do. Is there anything anybody would like to add to the agenda? Of course, we've got a few minutes at the end, people can jump in too. So, okay, let me close this down then. And Ed, if you want to cover some of the publicity topics, we turn over to Mackenzie.
As per our usual, I will yield the balance of the first few minutes at the top to Mackenzie, K04GLN. So over to you, Mackenzie.
Thank you, Ed. Good afternoon, everybody. I just have a couple of quick updates. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So I've compiled a list of contacts for South America, Central America, and the Caribbean, which can be viewed on the database that I will upload after our meeting to the Google Drive. I made sure to verify the accuracy of each contact by confirming them with their respective clubs before posting them on the spreadsheet. Additionally, I got an introductory email in French and Spanish with the help of my college language lab. It was a huge help, asking recipients to kindly seek assistance from an English-speaking individual if they are unable to understand the message. I also have emailed 15 hard copies of the SEQP packets to the National Amateur Radio Organizations, and I will be sending out more on Monday. This has been reflected on the Excel sheet. For our next meeting, I plan to send a follow-up email to the South American and Central American countries and the Caribbean about the SEQP offering assistance and answering any questions they may have. I also plan to invite some of the national country leaders to our Zoom informational meetings to help them better understand our group and our mission. And also to increase interest, I have created a Reddit account with the same passwords as Facebook and Twitter. I already spoke to Ed about that, but I have just made the account. I haven't been able to post anything yet. I will invite other ham related groups on Twitter. Unfortunately, I'm unable to invite them on our Facebook business account, but I can search around for some more contacts. And the last thing is, because school is starting in a couple of weeks, I received a couple of emails from school clubs asking questions about the SEQP and HAMSci. So I plan to use the school database and reach out to all the schools at the beginning of the fall semester and also aim to re-engage the ARRL educational group because it seems a little dormant. So those are my plans for the following weeks.
All good, all good. Thank you. And I'm glad you brought up the collegiate group, because I did want to I think I did touch base by email. Just in terms of Andy Maluzzi, who chairs the league's collegiate group, just to make sure that we're on the same page with them. I didn't get a chance to speak with him last night on the PR committee, but I did promise I would follow up with that. So that's good. I mean, so basically we're expanding our Twitter footprint, our Reddit footprint. And obviously we're starting to post on Facebook, more frequently now, as we promised that we would do that. And I'm starting to get some responses, okay, which I think is really good overall. So thanks, Mackenzie, in terms of getting us started here today. So I'll be brief. I took a couple of days off for an anniversary, but so I guess my report was a little bit short. And then I'll turn it over to Nick for an update on AM. But just very, very quickly, in terms of things that have happened over the last couple of days, I did speak with Rich Moseson at CQ Magazine. We did get an additional bit of copy into the September edition. It's going to be a brief with an accompanying picture that talks about the SEQP, and he managed to squeeze that in, which was, I think, really nice and a good favor to follow up on. The press releases regarding Save the Date went out to the Amateur Radio Newsline. It is up, and it's actually the lead story right now. If you take a look at Amateur Radio Newsline, at least it was about 15-20 minutes ago. And it was also just posted on QRZ and is the top story right now on QRZ going forward. So the contest clubs list goes out tonight. Just in terms of timing, I just wanted to make sure that we got the other pieces out before we followed up with contest clubs, and that'll be going out as well as with the collegiate club list going forward. Just in terms of upcoming meetings, I've asked our Hudson Division Director here in New Jersey, Nomar Vizcarrano, NP4H, if he would host a HAMSI workshop for us. Gary has agreed very nicely, thank you, Gary, to be our host for that night on August 18th, and we're confirming that date tomorrow morning. I'm having breakfast with Nomar to make sure that we've gotten that nailed down. We're also following with the obviously Rocky Mountain Division. Thanks, Bill. Okay, KATE. Okay, in terms of following on that, I reached out to Scott Yarney last night in Great Lakes. If he would act as a host. I see that the division director is stepping down, so I think Scott will be the host. At least he tentatively agreed he needed to follow up on that. We've already gotten a commitment from Scott Robert Stratton for the West Gulf division that he'll be helping us out in terms of a sort of a workshop like we're piloting with the Hudson division. And then obviously I'll be following with K9LA, Carl Lutzenschwab, in terms of looking at his division and what we need to do there. So, at least in terms of we're off and running in terms of, getting some large division workshops in terms of doing the presentation and asking for people to get on the air. Other just lifts in terms of the last couple of days. I think I might've mentioned this last week, but Hal Kennedy, I don't know if you know the name or the call, N4GG. He is a technical writer and writes for a number of newsletters in the Southeast and also here in the New York area. He's agreed to do a story on HAMSI, which he'll run right after Labor Day, and that'll be his monthly column. The topic will really be on HAMSI and the benefits of it and why you should be participating. We'll also be in the South Carolina section newsletter for the August edition. And also in the North Florida edition coming up in September. And also locally, I've got a couple of follow-up club meetings to do with South Plainfield here, Ocean Monmouth, and also got an invitation from the West Palm Beach group through our posting on Facebook. And so I'll be doing one with them down there right after Labor Day as well. Just one other mention is that I'll be at Ham Exposition, sort of handing out cards, shaking hands, and talking about obviously what we're doing here, and that will be the last weekend in August, and Stan KD1LE will be the presenter on the program at Ham Exposition. So other than that, I think that's basically where I am, okay, in terms of getting the word out. It's starting to accelerate now, as we promised we would do as we got into the first week in August, and that piece is starting to move as well. So with that, let me turn the program over to Nick Hall-Patch, VE7DXR, and to talk a little bit about what's going on with the AMSWL part of the program. So Nick, over to you.
Okay, first of all, am I audible?
Yes. Mhm.
Yes, good show. Okay. Yes, because the medium wave clubs tend to only have monthly bulletins at this time of year, which is the low season for DX. I'm planning on getting the blurb out to the couple of major medium wave clubs in America this weekend to get into this month's bulletin. I'm also going to submit something to the CIDX, which is the Canadian SWL Club, and that incidentally sort of dovetails with a couple of bloggers who are associated with that club. So hopefully, well, hopefully it's not going to be. Hopefully, I'm going to ask them to to start publicizing the medium wave in particular, but the whole Hamsai Eclipse program in general. And then the next couple of weeks, I'll expand it more to the several SWL blogs, and I'm also going to publicize it in a couple of European sites. One is a blog, one is a medium wave club. Not so much because I figure that they'll have many members or many. Certainly, the club won't have that many members who will be able to participate directly, but they do have a number of members outside Europe, and so if somehow a serious medium wave DXer is missing the information, they may catch it through there. The medium wave blog based in Denmark, I believe, is read worldwide, so that's an obvious place to put it. And there are several North American blogs that I'll be submitting it to as well. My South American contacts are unfortunately being very quiet at the moment. I may just cold call them and submit, the publicity sheet in the hope that something comes through. But I suspect also that the sort of general publicity will sort of catch the eye of readers and listeners to sort of blogs and so forth in South America as well. So we'll just have to see how that turns out. Anyway, I think that's it for the moment. Back to you, Ed. Back to
Okay,
you,
Nick.
Ed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks very much. Yeah, I'm back. So thanks
Okay.
very much for that. So, and hopefully we can get, run into some good luck in terms of South America and Central America. Just to close here, just a couple of other open items. I think I mentioned last week about podcasts. I've got a short list now, about 9 or 10 podcasters that I want to reach out to in the next week or so. And so obviously if you're one of, willing to present and be interviewed, okay, I would certainly like to be able to talk to you privately as we put that schedule up and running. So because we're looking for people who are really good on their feet and can really address an audience, more technical audience for maybe a short interview, maybe 5 or 6 minutes regarding an upcoming podcast. So I'll be following there. And then lastly, also, before I forget, is that as many of you know, I'm on the ARL PR committee. We were an agenda item. It can continue to be on their monthly agenda, which I'm really, because ARL is a partner. So I'm getting time every month to be able to talk a little bit about where we're going and some of the progress that we're making. The question that I'm going to be having offline next week with Sierra Harrop, W5DX, who is the PR person, and fully on board in terms of what we're doing, is sort of the use of the PR reflector for some of the work that we need to do. I don't want to overstep my bounds, because obviously I sort of cross over on 2 committees. So I just want to make sure that I'm sort of following, their guidelines, but obviously we're working hard to be able to get this. It'll be a good chance to get to all the PICs and the PIOs, for ARL, in terms of at least putting, our information regarding save the date and what you need to do and directing them back to the website. So, and just the only other short item is that we'd had from last week, a number of NASA clubs, that or clubs that NASA partners with. Amateur radio clubs who came to us from Desiree Bacchus, N3DEZ, and I will be following with them next week as well. So we get a sense of what they're doing and obviously getting the word out on what we need from them in terms of participation. So I guess, are there any questions before I turn the program back over to Gary? Nothing heard. So Gary, back to you, AF Day.
All right, Ed, thank you very much. Yeah, you guys continue to push this stuff out there, and I think it's obviously going to get results. And Mackenzie, especially you, I want to thank you because a couple of months ago we were at ground zero with the whole Central and South America thing, and we've thrown some ideas back and forth, but you put a lot of effort into it, and I think having the stuff in English and multiple languages and all that, different methods and different contact points is going to pay off handsomely. At least we certainly hope it will. You definitely, all you can do is try, and you're trying very hard. So that's much appreciated. Okay. Let's see, the next topic I had, which is pretty important since we're going to be having a Solar Eclipse QSO party, is going to be to score the whole event. So let me share my screen again and put a couple of names up there. I think there's a few people we owe some thanks to for volunteering to be part of the SEQP scoring committee. If I can spell committee correctly, it'd be even better. Kevin Coggins, KD4RTP, was going to be with us today, had to call off at the last minute. So he's got some experience in data analysis and that sort of thing. He's recently retired, I believe. Jerry, N5JXS, is with us today. Jerry's been a frequent commenter and contributor on the Hamside Google group. I know that. I believe you recently retired from NOAA, if I remember that properly.
Yep.
Is there anything you want to say today, Jerry? Just introduce yourself or give a few words.
Not much I really can say. I am fairly recently retired. I worked for the money laundering division of the University of Oklahoma at NOAA's National Severe Storms Laboratory. Left there in September of 21. We're living out in Colorado Springs now. I have a little bit of background in data analysis, data manipulation. So I should be able to help out a little bit here. Some knowledge of Python, and yeah, if you want to code this in Fortran 77, I'm probably the guy to do it.
Well, if it was a government application, it would be that or COBOL, right? So we could step back in time. All right, good.
We never wrote any weather models in COBOL.
Yeah, it's probably just the IRS still running COBOL.
Oh man.
Okay.
We are
All right, great.
using Fortran models here, so I mean, the SAMI 3 model and that's all in Fortran, so Fortran is alive and well.
And that's a good thing, but we can probably fix that with preferably not C++, but with C. Well, it's
Well,
that's what I said.
another
Yeah.
debate. Yeah.
All right, great, Jerry. Thank you for offering up your help and for stopping in today and for the introduction. That helps a little bit. I don't believe he's on this week, but he's been on in the past. Bob French, ACHZU, is more, he said he's more likely to help kind of on the back end once we've got some numbers or some code written. If there's anything that needs to be reviewed or some test files generated and that sort of thing, mostly from the, I would call it the end user contester's perspective. Bob has offered his help in too. Adarsh is here, KN6VIS. Adarsh has been on the call many times in the past. Adarsh, do you want to say a couple of words, introduce yourself and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, hello, my name is Adarsh, KN6VIS. I live here in Southern California, Orange County, and I'm a senior in high school this year, and I'm worked on the code a little bit, and yeah, hopefully it could contribute something.
I'm sure you will. And the last name I had on the list, I'm not sure if Jay is with us today, but of course, JWB at SBI has been contributing on and off the past couple of months on some documentation to help us make sure our code is properly written and documented and follow some good standards and practices and whatnot. So Jay's contributions are certainly appreciated. So in the last week or so, Nathaniel sent me the link to the, I think it was a Mendeley, no, it wasn't Mendeley. I forget who it was. The database with the 2017 data in it. I passed it on to Adarsh, and you've had some time to look at that and obviously read through the rules and that sort of stuff. So Adarsh, so do you want to talk about some of the things you've been looking at, some of the progress we might have made?
Yeah, I can share my screen. Can you guys see it all right?
Yes.
Okay, so this past week, basically what I've done is When I went into like the what is the error here? I guess it's still on, or maybe the terminal process got killed or something. Probably run it again. We just run Jupyter Lab again. Yeah, okay, so if I go into the SEQP. I looked at the Python libraries and they actually already have like a Cabrillo log file reading tool, but I kind of rewrote it because I wanted a bit more control of it, I guess. And there were some problems with it that I kind of wanted to fix. It's not complete yet. I still have to document a lot of it, and it's actually pretty general purpose, so we could reuse that once it's finished as well. So essentially, the way I did it is I have like a Python class written for each log file, and then I'm reading that in. And then that has this array of QSOs, and QSOs have their own log file, and they have like a comparator function. Yeah, this match function, or to compare two QSOs and check if they match and whatnot. And this is I just ran everything. I put all the Cabrillo log files into an array, and then the manual logs is any log files that were kind of broken, didn't have some data, and if we could manually fix those, if we had time or something, that's how it works there. And then I brought them onto this Jupyter notebook, and then I basically created this data frame, and then there's a call sign for each person in contest, and then how many points they got from contacts with another person. So then this is basically just the base points. I haven't added any of the multipliers or bonuses yet. That's next on my to-do list. But after adding all those points, sorted them up. I added them both column-wise and row-wise, and they should be equal. I suspect the problem here is some of the log files didn't have call signs written in them, and that gave an error in terms of how I added it together. So that's why there's some discrepancies. But in general, the points are added pretty well here, and then there's an order, and then I can check with the results too. So without bonuses, it seemed to be pretty accurate. At least these two were the first two places. After the bonuses, maybe the other one would line up too, but that's basically what I've done so far. And this is like the general data.
That's pretty impressive since you've only been working on this for a short time. You've made a lot of progress, it looks, I would say.
Yeah, I worked on a few hours each day and got this so far.
I mean, just looking at the call signs, just recognizing those call signs and knowing how they usually operate and fall in other contests. I know Bud AA3B and John K4BAI, like you said, were in the top of the results here. So it's good to see that duplicated. I think that the challenging part, I mean, this is obviously challenging to me, it sure would be, but is also as you get into the bonuses and start pulling the data from the RBN spots and that sort of thing. That's going to be very interesting as well.
I haven't gotten into the RBN much yet, but I've so far focused on the SQP. I'll work on the GSSC stuff later, perhaps.
Well, remember the SEQP, the part of the bonus point structure, and you said you haven't addressed it yet, and that's fine. But is how many times these stations appear in the beacon data as well? So it'll be interesting to see how this all fits together, I would say. Very nice though so far, very impressive.
There might be like, I still have to fully document this code. I kind of just writing it. I have to go through and do that and then clean up any like files that were kind of messed up. And I had a few questions about other stuff, but I'll ask those later about just in terms of like scoring and whether we're going to accept certain types of logs and whatnot.
Yeah, you're welcome to ask those questions if you want to do it by email, or if you want to get together with me on Zoom or something like that at any time. I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you.
Good. Does anybody have any comments or questions for what they're seeing from Adarsh here?
I just
Like I
want to
said-
say that I think this looks great, Adarsh. It looks fantastic. Thank you very much for doing it. I also do have my original code that I used to score it. So if you ever want a copy of the code I have, you are welcome to it. That's an open offer if you'd like it.
All right. Thank you. I might take a look at that, see what I can fix.
Sounds great.
So my thought was, let's see if anybody has any comments on this. I mean, we can certainly review this on the call this week, on these Thursday calls if we've got time. We can make time. I don't know if there's, whether Jerry or Kevin or others would have some more, I guess I'd say more technical comments that want to look into the details, or if we should get together, a separate call once a week or something like that to review the progress and the results.
I am going to want to look at the code, but right now, from what I can see, it's pretty solid. The row column discrepancy is easily explained. I've run into that before. I just sent Adarsh a message. I can help with some of the documentation if he can start just inserting inline comments, simple inline comments. I can flesh a lot of that out. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have at least a meeting or two to start talking about this.
Okay, schedule wise, since we're talking about meetings, just so I could put some notes down. I know Kevin's not here, but is Darsh, I know if you said you're in high school, school hasn't started yet. Is your time fairly flexible? Are there days that might be a problem for you, or?
This week and next week I'm pretty free. After that, school starts, so then I might have a little more scheduling conflicts.
Okay, how about you, Jerry? Yeah, this week's about over. It's already Thursday evening, so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty flexible. Monday nights are bad for me.
Good. Yeah, we've got another ham site call on Monday evenings anyhow, so that's fine. Okay,
Tuesdays and Fridays will work best for me. In the
so
afternoons.
Tuesdays through or just Tuesday and Friday? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Tuesday and Friday.
Okay,
I can work with that.
okay. I'll send a note to the same group that I did last night, and we'll see what Kevin's availability is, maybe on a Tuesday or something. And if anybody else wants to join us and listen in, that's fine. Obviously, we'll make that available. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's fantastic news, Darsh. That's to see such a good start on that. The nice thing is it's August. We're well ahead of the game. We're not just, many times it seems like the scoring for some contest starts after the contest is over. But to be working on it a few months ahead of time, having old data to review, having Nathaniel's old code to review and stuff is a fairly ideal situation, I think, for everybody probably. So any other comments or questions on the scoring committee? Otherwise, we'll move on. Fantastic. Well, that was worth the call itself almost right there, just seeing that. That's fantastic.
Here, I can say that the scoring code, I believe, is actually, I think it's publicly available on the GitHub repo. So I'll just put that in the chat. It's not well documented, but it should be compatible with the things I posted to Zenoda.
I'm used to scientists not documenting their code well.
Well, I have to ask, I mean, you think you never, do you expect this event to happen again in the future? I guess that was the other thing too, if it's a one-time event, maybe not, but.
Well, I think the other thing is, there are different levels of documentation. Like I do put notes in for myself, and then I also do have I try to keep the doc strings, fairly up to date. And I also try to make the variable names, make sense. But there's only so much time to actually, put it into a package that's really going to be reusable.
The way I did it is like there's kind of a class for each of the files and class for the QSO, so that could be pretty reusable, I think, if we were to do something. I know we're going to do one again in April, but in the future too, because it's a pretty general purpose log file reader and comparator.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, I'm giving this to you not to say you have to do it the way I did it or anything like that. It's just purely a reference point, and you can see if you are recreating the same scores that I created.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look and see if there's anything that I missed or might be able to fix.
Great.
Excellent. Okay, let's see. That would take us to, I guess, the Nathaniel and Gareth show. Are there any science topics you guys want to bring up, or anybody else would want to raise? Well, we've got a fair amount of time today.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you. So Gareth and I did meet earlier today to kind of chat about the overall strategy for this. And we have two, so the University of Scranton is going to be getting an undergraduate student to work on science analysis here. And Gareth is working on hiring a postdoc. So I think what I'd like to say is the plan for the University of Scranton undergraduate student, I'm going to try to recruit someone who's probably like a sophomore level student this fall. And the goal is to have them work with us for 2 summers. And I'd like to have them team up, especially with Steve Serwin, to work on the TDOA analysis. So I know Steve has been looking for someone to help him with the coding and the data analysis for that. So I'm hoping we can find a good student to help him with that. While I have Steve on my mind, after I have Gareth give his update, maybe Steve, I know this is the SEQP call, but not the grape call, but maybe we can chat really quickly about our frequency choice for the grapes too. So before that, let me hand it over to Gareth. He can tell us about the process of recruiting a postdoc. And we talked a little bit about what their initial goals and tasks would be. So go ahead, Gareth.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Nathaniel. So everybody can hear me nice and clear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, good. Yeah, so as Nathaniel said, right now we're in the process of hiring a postdoc for the Eclipse project. It's actually part of an effort we're having here at NGIT to hire up to 5 postdocs at once. So this will be one of the up to 5 postdocs. And we're going to start reviewing applications in September, the first week of September, so right after Labor Day. And we've already got quite a few applications in that look, and more than enough to actually look promising already. So we're pretty happy about that. So I'm pretty confident. I was telling Nathaniel this morning, I'm pretty confident we'll find a good postdoc for this project. And I think really the first task we'll have Nathaniel and I were discussing this morning, we'll probably have them doing is the postdoc is looking at some of the early results from the annular eclipse in October, mostly because that would be a good place to start. And I guess Nathaniel put in an abstract to AGU saying we would show some early results. So so we have to kind of walk the walk, talk the talk sort of thing. So that would be the first thing that the postdoc would be working on is reproducing, using some of the data techniques that were used for the 2017 eclipse, and trying to get a first crack or first pass at seeing if we see some interesting effects right off the bat. And hopefully, if that all works out smoothly, we could show something at the AGU meeting in December. I'm gonna be pushing pretty hard to get, it's one thing to identify and agree to hire somebody or a postdoc in a September timeframe. How quickly you can get them starting to work for you and paying them will be a little bit longer. So hopefully everything goes smoothly and we can, as soon as the results are in from the annular eclipse, we can get them working on it. And that's all I have. Back to
Thanks,
Nat.
Gareth. That sounds great. And then the other science topic, we had a little bit of a dialogue with Steve Serwin. From talking with the GRAPE group, it seemed like the people could reliably observe 10 megahertz WWV from pretty much anywhere in the nation during the daylight hours. And Steve was saying that perhaps you get more interesting physics at 5 megahertz, but I think the priority for the annular eclipse needs to be that we get data at all. So I wanted to hear we never had a chance to really dialogue about this in person, Steve. So wondered if you wanted to say anything about that, or if you had any comments also on the TDOA and that sort of thing.
Okay, on the TDOA, I did manage to get the waveform encoded into my 7610, which turns out wasn't easy. You can't just take a waveform, a wave file, do it at the same sample rate that they use, put the right kind of name on it, and expect it to read it. It won't. Apparently, ICOM, let me let this dog out of here. She wants to leave.
So the call is going to the dogs. It's official.
It is.
So anyway, I finally got it in there by the same way you would load one of your voice memories, like when you call CQ in a contest or something. So I built a little, well, I didn't build, I had these interfaces, transformer isolated interfaces, fed the waveform through transformer isolation into the audio input from the computer and just recorded it. And that worked great. I ran another test with my buddy Mac on 75 meters. He's up by Fort Worth. It's about 275 miles. And this was on 80 meters. And man, the data looked great. Had about a 1.9 millisecond TDOA between the 1 and 2 hop modes that was very plain on both the short pulses and on the chirps. So on 5 or 10 megahertz for the grapes, well, at 5 megahertz, there's going to be a lot bigger, I think, amplitude swings because the delay absorption affects the lower frequencies more than it does the high ones. In the 2017 Eclipse, I recorded amplitude data only for WWVB at 60 kilohertz and also 5 megahertz WWV, and both of those showed a 10 dB increase in signal strength as the Eclipse went by. Now, back then, the path of the Eclipse was completely north of Colorado and went mostly east-west, and I'm down here in Texas. So that path is significantly south of where the Eclipse was, and yet it still had that big an effect on propagation amplitude. And of course, with the layer heights changing around, you should get some interesting mode splitting stuff going on in the Doppler regime as well. So that's kind of why I like 5 megahertz. Recall that we got that 10 megahertz data from Steve Ryer, WA9VNJ, and it gave beautiful Doppler data for 10 megahertz. Of course, his path was ideally situated. The Eclipse exactly transected the path between him and 10 megahertz WWV, and the data was just simply gorgeous. So, I don't think you're gonna be disappointed with either one of them. I guess if I had a preference, I'd like to see at least some of both so that you don't miss out on any of it. But I believe, Nathaniel, you said that there was some motivation to have everybody do the same frequency.
The main motivation, there's 2 motivations for having everyone do the same frequency at the moment. One is simply logistical. We're running against a time crunch in terms of getting these grapes put together and configured and deployed. And we're sending them to people who really don't they're not necessarily familiar with the system. So from a logistical standpoint, it's easiest to set them all to be the same. Just tell people, set them up, make sure they work, and we're good to go. That's number one. Number two, we've heard at least anecdotally from a number of people on the call that they often can't hear 5 megahertz WWV during the day. And so I was concerned that if that's the case, we do want to be able to hear WWV to be able to get data. We want the best chance of doing that. So that was 2. And I guess those are, there was one more I was thinking of. Oh yeah, and 3, I thought it would be easiest to do a comparison of the data if everyone's looking at the same thing. So those are the 3 reasons that I wanted to do it. I would be amenable if we get to the point where if we get these things shipped out within the next, shipped out and set up with a few weeks to spare, and we're kind of comfortable with having having the system just work and upload the data properly, and we have all those logistics taken care of, then maybe we can ask a couple of people selectively to go down to 5 megahertz. And but once we just know that we have a system in place that can make any data collection at all.
I would predict that on some of those stations that can't hear 5 megahertz during the day normally, that during the eclipse they will.
That's very possible.
Here, there at least back then in 2017, there was about 20 dB, maybe a little more difference between daytime and nighttime propagation. And the eclipse did 10. It got us halfway from daytime to nighttime propagation
Well,
levels.
Let's do this. Let's start, just again, to make things logistically simple. Let's start by configuring all of them for 10 megahertz, just so we can get the system up and running. And as we get these stations up and going and on the database map and reporting data, maybe we can revisit it, because there might be some people that will feel like they have the skills that they can go make some changes, and then we can take a look at the map and try to make some decisions then.
You could also get some of the folks that have radios, have their grape running at 10 and just have them listen to 5 on their radio.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think just in terms of what we can handle logistically right now, I think this is what we can do.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But
I mean,
I'm hoping that we will get a little more breathing room. I'm hoping that the deployment will get out soon and that we will get a little more breathing room. And then I'm also hoping that this dress rehearsal, we still have the Grape 2 in development. It is moving along. Our goal is to get that deployed for the April eclipse now. That would give us 3 frequencies at once. Rob Robinette is doing some really interesting work getting his Kiwi and now the RX-888, his Whisper Demon system, have it be able to record grape type Doppler data as well. So as time goes on, there's going to be opportunities to collect more different frequencies.
And we also have the worldwide systems of receivers that may or may not exist that will be sampling the entire spectrum too. So that might help.
Yeah, if we make that coordination.
So.
Great.
One other
Nick,
question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Gary. Yeah, it's Nick here. Yeah, I'm wondering whether that would be something, that might come up from people who are, say, looking at the medium wave side of things. I think they tend to be more on the techie side. People would be interested in this. They're also sort of people who tend to have more than one receiver. If it was made known that 5 megahertz was an interesting frequency, and they're already sort of aware of the standards that would be necessary to run a reasonable medium wave recording. Maybe we should say, if you're also capable of, recording at 5 megahertz using the same standards, then fill your boots. And you're talking, Steve, you're talking about amplitude data, but you're also you're looking for is that all you're looking for, or you're looking for frequency shift as well? Back to you.
Well, the Doppler data should be very, very interesting as well. The only reason I didn't do that in 2017 is because I couldn't at the time.
Okay.
Amplitude
Yeah.
was all record, but
Yeah,
the Grape do both, and that's an ideal platform.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is that, again, the sort of people who'd be interested in the medium wave side of things would be, they're going to be prepped for the idea of, trying to record their data to a high standard. They're also likely to have at least one more SDR kicking around. So that they could put that to work as well. So, maybe that would be, something that we could ride on in addition to what Rob was, going to provide as well. So I'll keep that in mind if you like.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have loved to have had Doppler data, but I wasn't into it that deeply back then. I was just getting started on all this. but the great being able to monitor both, that's going to be great.
Mhm. Okay, I will sort of add it to the box. Okay, thanks.
Well, one further question relative to the TDOA experiment. Steve, we had a couple of discussions a few weeks back, and I don't really think we came to closure. Is that there's two ways to go with the chirp signal to be transmitted during that event. One would be just be what I call the gold standard chirp signal, which Steve has a copy of and which we could put up on a website for people to use. And the other thing is the Jupyter notebook will create a file for an individual station with their call sign in CW and Morse code and their grid in Morse code, and concatenate all that together with the chirp signal. That adds a layer of complexity, I guess. And Steve was wondering if we just transmitted the pure, the chirp signal file, what we would lose by not transmitting the identifier in Morse and the identifier in of the grid square. And I couldn't answer that question. What the intention was with those two fields, if you want to call them that.
Well, I think the thought process behind adding the CWID was that it automatically encoded the location, identification and location of the transmitting station. Does that mean that you couldn't have that information anyway? I mean,
Yeah, I
we're
guess
logs after all. But
Yeah.
I can see the value in that. And by the way, it's identically the same set of waveforms. And I could easily take I guess the thing that got me is I'm not Jupyter conversant, and I don't think I'm alone in that, in the greater ham community. But I can certainly take this waveform, load it into a wave program, and just turn on the microphone at the end and send my code in Morse code, have the side tone record and the end of it. And in fact, I will do that. So I'll have my code, my call sign appended in Morse code on the end of the waveform as well. But I'll just record it directly.
The thing I remember is sitting at the workshop in Scranton, Christina and Aiden Montero were behind me, and they were talking, and I heard him, I thought I heard him say by encoding this extra data in Morse code, it would assist Rachel's project. And I don't know if, well, if we do it anyhow, it won't matter, it'll be there. I just don't recall how that would have affected any of the data that Rachel's trying to analyze.
Oh, this is the first I heard of that. If there's another data analysis scheme that needs that data, by all means, that's what we should do.
Yeah, I don't know what the thinking was behind that. I do appreciate the idea that if you're making recordings of these things, having the person's call sign and grid square right in the recording is a useful way to absolutely confirm that's where the signal came from. But I don't know what the thought process was behind any additional analysis.
I mean, because during the events, we're going to have literally millions of spots that Rachel and others will be able to plow through. And
yeah, I don't think I would worry about that too much.
Is she going to automatically decode that data? I mean, she's going to have a Morse code decoding program that'll extract the call sign and grid square?
well, the thought might be that the existing CW skimmers would pick it up and put it into the plotting networks.
Oh,
Possible.
Yeah, that's just a theory on my part. So that's all.
Yeah.
but it's not part of this coherent CW program, is
No.
it? Okay.
As far as I know, you can double check with Christina, Steve, but as far as I understand, the main focus for your thing should just be your chirp. So whatever you think you need for that chirp, put your focus there.
Okay.
So
Well,
yeah,
it's been up for a long time, and it's still up. And you can now they've added the functionality of getting your call sign and grid square encoded. So I would say that's the go-to way to get it.
It's very easy.
Yeah.
okay.
I'd
There
like
were
to-
some. Go ahead.
Yeah, Gary, this is Bill in New Mexico, a state, part of the United States. I'd like to point out that the RBN skimmers only look at the CW portion of the band. So where will this be operating?
Probably be in the phone band because
It'll
there'll be.
definitely be in the phone bands, yeah.
Then the RBN, there won't be any skimmers decoding it.
Right. I was thinking of that as you were saying that. That makes a lot of sense. So so Steve, think about, let me know what you want to do. If we want to leave the Hamside website as it is and direct everyone toward Jupyter and Python, or if you give them an alternate and you would send me the file, they could just download that chirp file without the ID. Whatever you guys think is best. I'll
I'll be glad
modify
to
it.
send you the chirp file, but the chirp file is the file I downloaded from that site.
Hmm.
I'll just be sending it back to you, but I'll be glad.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But it was before they included the CW ID on the end of it.
Right. Right.
If you want us to generate, help you generate one, we'll be happy to run it for you and mail you the file, Steve.
Oh, I'll get it.
Okay.
Okay. So from my point of view, I'll just leave the website as it is. If we not modifications to it, I'll be happy to do them, but otherwise we'll just leave it status quo, I guess. Okay, anything else in the TDOA or from the science realm?
Just got an email from Kung Nugent saying that he has the GREEP hardware 2 fully operational now. So yeah, so he had gotten the GREEP 2 from John Gibbons a couple days ago. Something happened in the GPS receiver, got busted. We overnighted it back to John. John fixed it yesterday, overnighted it back to here, and now Kung is ready to write code. So
The day is always darkest before the dawn or something like that, because it's
Something like
looking
that.
pretty iffy there for a while, so.
I have to say I'll be very happy next year after April 8th when we say, wow, we actually did it and everything worked. But yeah, it's a little stressful right now.
Yeah, well, with 250 days, it'll be over, right? So,
One way or the other.
yep.
All right, it's 4:55 PM. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up? Otherwise, we'll be able to close it down before 5 and we'll keep to our hour. Nope. Okay, great. Thanks everyone for
sorry.
joining. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, Gary. I was a little slow on the trigger. So just to be able to add something to the conversation today, if I could share my screen. So I'm in Tucson, for those of you that didn't know that before, and I was curious about the WWB frequency discussion. So there are 3 receiver slices in Tucson right now. 10 megahertz, definitely the strongest. 15 is fade up and down right now, and it looks like I have a birdie of something else at 5, and if I hit the audio, I can't see anything at all. I can't hear anything at all. So just to add to the discussion. That's all. Thanks.
No, it's good. That's a picture is worth 1,000 words kind of thing. So thank you for that.
I think
Kind
what
of
I should
antenna.
say too is, so I think with my decision on 10 megahertz, I should say that my decision for setting the whole network to 10 megahertz really applies to the grapes that we are distributing from the New England Grape Group and the ones that we're actually shipping out from Hamside. If anyone else wants to, observe something else on their own, by all means, please do. But for the ones that we have our kind of assembly line configuring, I think we're going to keep those all the same.
I had a brief announcement in case any of you have a RX 888, and aren't on my other list. Just let you know, it is working with K9Q Radio and Whisper Demon, and it works marvelously well on $100 Orange Pi. So for less than $300, you can listen to all the Whisper bands, all of the WWVs, everything. And I'm just working on learning how to log these digital RF format IQ files. And you'll have several additional uploads, including a site that is line of sight to WWV. So we'll be using that site to calibrate the software and the RX 888. That is a Bogner disciplined 888. So we'll be able to do that. I think there's a grape that's line of sight to WWV. And so we'll use this site, N6GN's site, to calibrate and verify that the 888 can deliver the same data as the Grape 2. Now, is that a Grape 2? Is the Grape 2 line of sight to, is there some difference here?
Well, the hope is Dave Schwartz and Ford Collins will be putting up a Grape 1 for October, and then eventually changing that to a Grape 2, sure.
Okay, well then we won't be able to, we will have only my Glenn N6GN's receiver. It will be the only line of sight to, well, we know the quality of the, WWV signals. So any deviation from that will be an indication of a problem with the
receiver. Yeah.
Yeah. Won't be
So
the
Rob,
transmitter.
what is your other list?
Well, I maintain the whisperdemon.org. There's a groups.io Whispered Demon a group, and that's right now the center of my work with the 888. So
Okay,
you can,
that's what
you
I
can
wanted to know. Having one, it sounds like all the activity is over there.
that's where primary activity is. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it's ready to go. If you have a Linux server and a 888, you'll see I'm in the midst of shepherding people through installation and configuration of their 888 systems.
Okay, it sounds good. Thanks. What does that work on a Raspberry Pi or just these higher power?
No, the Pi doesn't have enough CPU power to process the 66 megasamples that come out of the 888. So
do you have a list of what's needed?
almost any i86 server, 10-year-old i5 2200s work just fine. And the Orange Pi. So if you're going to buy something at this point, I would, I'm discouraging any Whisper Demon users from buying any Pi 4s because the Orange Pi is cheaper. I think is still cheaper, and it's 4 or 5 times more powerful than the i4.
Okay,
the Pi 4.
Yeah, I've got computers. I got one computer. It's an i5 2400. You say that's
That'll be fine.
horsepower?
That'll be fine. The only issue with the RX 888 with the Orange Pi I encountered, I haven't found this problem with the i5 machines, but the 888 draws about 4 watts, 800 mils at 5 volts, and the Orange Pi's USB 3 port won't supply that much power to it. So I have to put a USB 3 hub between the Orange Pi, a powered USB 3 hub, and between the Orange Pi and the 888. That isn't needed on any of the other servers that I've tried. The i5 server seems to be able to put out an amp or more out there, USB 3
Well,
ports.
yeah, they're supposed to, but yes. Okay, thanks. I'll look into that.
Okay, thanks for the good news, Rob. I know that's been a contentious subject the last couple of weeks. The RX 888,
It's been,
to say the least.
yeah. There's the heat issue, but I'm thinking we're running as long as we run it at 66 megasamples. You need a low pass filter, of course, if you do that, because the internal filter of the 888 is 66 megahertz low pass. So you have to put a 30 megahertz low pass in front of a 888 if you're going to run it at 66 megasamples. So I do have someone who's building such low pass filters, so they're orderable and deliverable if you can't get them from other sources.
I just happen to have a 30 megahertz low pass
That's all you need.
filter.
That's all you need. It might help to have a 15 dB LNA as well, but that's another story.
Got it.
Okay, I've got to run to the grill, guys. Everyone have a great week, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much, Barry.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey,
Thank you.
Daniel, you got just a second?
I do.
Here, can I show you something on the screen here?
Yes.
There it is.